Well, I've been asked to make a video about Project 3, so here it is. And I really thank the people who asked me because it's important for us to provide as much information as we can in as many forms as we can for our students. So here we go. If you remember back to your childhood, I suspect that you remember some projects that you did in classrooms, maybe in elementary school or middle school or high school, that you just never will forget. And that's kind of what we're interested in designing here. This is going to be the best of the best, if you will. What primarily thinking of motivation, it has to be a topic that at least one person in the classroom is just really excited about. So, for example, if in looking at the videos or knowing the children that you have or the students that you've put in your virtual classroom, you know the things that they're excited about, so that would be a choice of topics. And another thing would be something that you're just really, really excited about. There's basically for anything that someone in your classroom is excited about, there's some kind of standard that would be fulfilled through exploring that topic. And actually, it would be many standards in my experience. And if you have something you want to explore and you're not sure how to tie it to standards, shoot me an email and I'll be glad to help you with that. Now, there's several things you want to think about. If you look at the resources, you'll find some information about cognitive theory. I think that's enormously helpful because it tells you not to fill their brains with too much, not to insist on pushing beyond the brain's normal capacity. It tells you how people develop long-term knowledge, how things move from the short-term memory that we have, which is essentially the RAM of the computer that is your brain, into long-term memory, which would be the equivalent of the hard drive. And if you know that if you've got, say, a paper you wrote and it's only in RAM and your computer shuts down, then you've lost the paper because it was only in short-term memory. And the same is true for how the brain works. So that's really interesting stuff. Another thing to think about would be Vygotsky, and information about him is also in the resources. And where he's salient are several areas. One is that I think group work is largely justified by Vygotsky. But by group work, I mean more like the Sugata Mitra group work, where the kids were kind of engaged together, and it wasn't like the teacher's giving a grade on participation in the group and that kind of thing. As you probably have experienced in your education, the group work where you get a grade for it is very stressful because you don't know when you're ending up doing more than you really should, or is your fair share, and someone's writing on what you're doing. It's just not, it makes group work not fun. And so this is, if you're going to do group work, do it in a way that's actually constructive. So that's another thing to think about Vygotsky. A third thing to think about is Bloom's taxonomy. Now, Bloom's taxonomy is a very interesting thing because it helps us to move beyond just drill and kill, just plain old memorization. There is room in education for memorization. Kids should know their math facts. There's other things they need to know. But the projects that you probably remember fondly from your experience as a student are ones that did not involve memorization, I'm fairly certain. And so Bloom's taxonomy helps us to articulate how do we get to that what they call higher level thinking. I think of it as digging deeper into the topic. So Bloom's taxonomy is another thing to look at. So what you want to do is you want to think about these things and think about who your students are. think about the folks that you have who have disabilities, and think about how technology can help you to overcome any of those issues. So, for example, this is kind of a universal design for learning thing. My making the video addresses the needs of many different people, because there may be some people who are not strong at reading English, but whether they're native speakers of different languages, or reading's just not their thing, whatever. So by my making this video, I'm making this information more accessible to more people. And that's what you want to think about, is how do you make that information that you're going to use as the basis accessible to all your students. So that's an important thing to think about. And technology really is your friend. There are many, many different technological resources for this. So, for example, if you have a text that's on the web that you want students to read, or you can put it on the web, or you can make it digital in some way, then if you go to Vozme, Vozme.com, I believe, you can turn that text into an MP3, and it's read by a computer voice. And it's not ideal, I'll tell you. I've used it for a long time. But it's certainly better than not having something, or than trying to read everything out loud yourself, which can be really a challenge. So that's the use of technology. Now, if you create something really incredibly creative that you know that students are going to remember for the rest of their lives doing it, you're going to kill it if you give a test about it. So think about not using tests. In fact, I don't want you to use worksheets and tests in this assignment. I want you to think of something better than that. If they're doing some kind of group work, you can still look at individual contributions in that by observation, or by asking students to write journals, or asking students to reflect upon what they're doing, that kind of thing. So try to look for natural places to do some kind of assessment. If you're in a performance-based sort of field, so for example, if you're in physical education, or you're in music education or art education, it's pretty natural to do that sort of thing. You know, you teach an exciting game to play, or new sport to students, and then you can observe how they do it, and that's a really good assessment. For those of you who are not in those so-called special fields, take a note from them, because those what you want to do is look for performance-based assessment. So if you have students doing something like taking what they've learned and creating a presentation, not just for the class, not death by PowerPoint, but have them try to do something like a TED video or a TED Talk that would be shared with parents or other people in the school. That can lead to some really exciting stuff, and you will be pleased and surprised, and the students will also, and that's part of making it memorable. So think about performance-based assessment that's kind of natural to what you're doing, and that possibly would include an audience other than yourself and their classmates. So that's a good thing to think about. Well, that's kind of an overview of Project 3, and I hope that this is helpful. I do advise, even if you've watched the video, to at least scan down through the information on iLearnFor it. And I also invite you to email me, or to set up a time to meet, or whatever you need that will help you to be successful in this project. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.